background in human services, Tim has worked as an eligibility caseworker, a fraud investigator, and as a Fed with USDA FNS food stamp program. He talks the talk because he has walked the walk. During this program, you will be exposed to ideas and techniques that will enhance your abilities, whether you interview as a caseworker, a social worker, supervisor, investigator, or any other information assessor. As you apply these techniques, you will experience an increased sense of fulfillment by gaining a deeper understanding of your communication style versus those of others. In short, this training video focuses on how you can understand the subtle yet powerful differences in the communication styles you encounter every day. And most importantly, you will understand how to best navigate them to reduce costly errors and increase program accuracy. Your Interviewing with Style Desk reference guide reflects the video and precludes the necessity of taking notes. All the vital information can be found in the guide. Now have some fun and enjoy Interviewing with Style with Tim Gard.
Today we're going to be talking about how to interview and the different types of interviewing styles. What you're doing isn't incorrect. It's just that sometimes you need a choice to be able to pick different things. And once you learn to interview, a lot of folks stay with that the whole time, regardless of the fact that we're met with all sorts of interviewing challenges. And so as we talk about this, it's more an enlightened way to look at some of the things that you know about and to give you some different information so you can do that voodoo you do so well. And maybe shave a few minutes off, get a little bit more information, a little bit tighter information, and about how you can set the stage with language and with how we say things to be able to more effectively do your job. Again, it's a lot about having fun. All my seminars are about having fun. I want you to know that when something bad happens, when I'm traveling, put my hand right here and I say, bummer. Try that. Bummer. When something good happens, like I get upgraded to first class for free, I do this. Woohoo! Try that. Sometimes you just do it in your mind. I mean, if your director walks in your office, you don't go, bummer. Any more than when a beautiful woman sits next to me, I go, woohoo! At least not anymore. But what we're going to talk about is that the rules today are very simple. Have fun. There's not going to be any role playing. I'm not dragging anybody up the front of the room. It's a good deal. Here's kind of an overview about what we're going to talk about today. This is the Reader's Digest condensed version. Number one, the words we say are of critical importance. Mark Twain said the difference between the right word and the almost right word is a difference between lightning and a lightning bug. Big difference. How many of you do food stamps? Food stamps? You ask somebody, are you a separate household for food stamp purposes? They're going to say, what's that mean? And you say, it means you get more food stamps. They're going to say, why, yes, I am a separate household for food stamp purposes. I mean, what are you thinking? Instead of asking them like that, we rephrase it to say, tell me about how food is consumed in your house, or about how you purchase your food, or who does this. Document it. The words we choose are of critical importance. The second thing up there is how we say the words, how we say them. As a Fed with USDA, I got more complaints, not by what was said, but by how it was said. And after the interview, it's just like a car accident. You know, everybody has a different opinion about what exactly transpired there. Because both people can come in with preconceived notions. I mean, if I walk out in the waiting room and I go, Bob Smith, please come with me, that's one thing. But if I do this, Bob! There's a difference. Third thing up there is you choose and vary your communication style to meet the applicant. It's not your style that you force on them. It's about how people communicate, and everybody's different. Men and, if nobody else told you this, men and women are different. True or false? True? My wife and I, now my ex-wife, and I know there's two sides to every story and I'm over it. We're driving down the road. Lori looks over at me and she says, Tim, would you like to have an ice cream cone? And I say no. And we go home. Ladies, I'm in trouble. Why? I said, if you want an ice cream cone, you should have asked me. She said, what? I did. Indirect communication style, direct communication style. There are none that are proper or correct. They're just what? Different. Apply it to what you do every day. Man comes in an office. They're going to want to sit and chat with you. No. Most of the time, if they want to get in there and do what? Get out. So you have to adapt your style to get them, instead of yes or no answers, more open questions. Not are you working, but tell me about your construction business. And then we control the interview based on the style. Everybody is different. And as far as the response even, in Singapore, when I trained in Singapore, they have a respect for trainers that if I ask a question, they won't answer immediately because they want to give value to my question and the response. So the first time I went over there and asked a question, everybody just stared at me. And it's like, this thing on? You know, it's all a different style of communication. We're going to talk about that. Fourth thing up there is understanding motives, goals, and objectives. Yours and the people that come in and apply. You know, your goal is 100% accuracy. Not 99, not 98. It's accuracy and to give information. The goal of the applicant is to get all the benefits possible. When?
No.
Yesterday. Because most of them waited too long to come in. Isn't that right? And so there's a desperation there. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but their motives and goals are different than yours. And if you force your own motives on them, then you may not communicate because it's different. Last part, or the second last part, is NLP. It stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Now, this isn't about programming the people that come in and hypnotizing them. I don't like the word, but it's an amazing science that really works. It's about understanding how people's mind maps are. You know, it's about comprehending that people communicate differently, and by understanding that and changing the words and how you say things and how you approach problems, you can control that interview. There are so many things out of your control. The rules, the regulations, caseloads, all this stuff is an inverted pyramid right on top of you. The one thing you can control is that interview. And if you want job satisfaction, and you should have it, because this is tough work, folks. Not everybody can do this job. True or false? True. Haven't you met people that they got hired? You think, oh, they're a Connor. They're not going to last more than a couple days, you know? That's just the way it is. You know, you have automated systems that still have problems, but there's no automated system where people can just input information and it spits out eligibility. What you do is incredible. The complexity of the programs are amazing. You need all the tools. NLP is a different way of looking at things. Now, for instance, what color is this? Say it out loud.
White.
Louder.
White.
Louder.
White.
What do cows drink? What do cows drink?
Water.
This is how some of you say, funny, Tim, but scary. This is why on an application, a lot of times it'll say, they'll answer that gets eligibility is no, 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 and they'll just draw a line right through it, right? Where that should be staggered, shouldn't it? Should make people think about it. And if you keep asking the same question as you're doing this, talking to somebody, what are they going to do? They're going to respond the way they think that you want them to respond. NLP, we'll talk about it. It's amazing science, and it can be applied to the eligibility world. Last one up there is plan of action. If you just walk out and wing it, you will be doomed to fail at one time or another. You got to have a plan, consistency. Every single trainer that comes out and trains on interviewing talks about open and closed questions. You hear it all the time. But if you have a plan, you use them in a pattern of speech that's used to solicit information. You know, most of your computers are yes or no, aren't they? Are you this? Are you this? Are you this? Your question should be open, and then you make the determination of eligibility. If I say, are you a separate household for food stamp purposes, and it's a yes or no, and you say yes, and I enter it, we have a potential error, right? If I'm interviewing you and I ask about your income, and you tell me one job, and we stop there, we have a potential error. Because we want to question people till they're empty. A lot of households have more than one job, and this is where errors occur. This is the basis for it. And again, you're not doing anything wrong. I just want to give you all the tools possible, because most of you learned on the job. How many of you learned the interview on the job? Raise your hand. Okay? How many of you were hired off the street, just out of curiosity? Mark Tanberry's out there. Get in here, you're doing eligibility here. I beat out about 250 people for the job. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea what was going to happen when I got hired. I was laying sewer line at the time, And all I wanted was a job that was indoors. I got a check every 2 weeks, and I was permanent full-time. That's all I wanted. And I got hired. And I remember, think about your first day on the job, just for a second. This was my first day. I go into my cubicle, which was just slightly larger than my cell. I discovered that you have to have, it's the higher up you move, or the more seniority gets, the bigger space. And I thought, I better advance quickly here. And I had to hold the side of my chair because it was broke. And if you didn't hold the side, you go right over. My in and out stack trays, if you put anything in them, even a piece of paper, they collapse. They're broken. My stapler, I could staple, but then I had to manually reopen it. My pens had no ink, and the middle drawer stuck and wouldn't open. And Don, who sat next to me, said, "Don't look in there." I was to discover later that whenever someone left the department, the scavengers would come and take their defective items and trade up when nobody was looking. And I sat there wondering what I got into, and I could hear somebody yelling over here and somebody crying over here, and didn't really know what was going on. And my new supervisor and the county director came over, and they brought these books with them. Showed me an application, and then set these giant things in front of me. And I'll never forget Patty reaching across the table and touching it lovingly. She said, "Tim, this is policy manual. All the answers are here. You have 2 hours to read them." Now, these don't read well. You know what I mean? They're hard to read. So I went in the break room and I sat there and I opened up this policy manual, and I'm expecting a work of art like War and Peace or A Tale of Two Cities. You know, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, which would be good opening for any policy manual. But I start reading this stuff, it might as well have been nuclear welding. You just can't read it. And I'm reading terms that normal people don't use. Who talks like this? A resource, asset. You know, when's the last time your neighbor pulled up with a new truck and you went, "Nice resource"? Or people moving across the street and you go, "What's their household comp?" Your daughter brings home a new boyfriend, you're wondering if he's ABOD. You know, and I'm reading about resident aliens. And I'm thinking Mulder was right. I mean, don't look to the scars. They're here. They're here. And it got so confusing. I remember I went right to the sports page and sat there for my 2 hours, and I went back to my desk, and I'm sitting in my little cubicle wondering what I got myself into. And Patty comes back, and the book's sitting there. She touches it. Lovingly. And she said, "What did you think?" And I knew my answer was critical to me working indoors, getting a check every 2 weeks, and being paid full time. And I said, I laughed, I cried, it became a part of me. And I got to stay. She said, "You read this for a little while more." So I got the book open. I didn't know it. I was at the emergency food stamp desk. And whenever somebody came in to apply for emergency food stamps, if my chair was open, they were to send them back to me. Only the lady at the desk didn't know I'd only been there about 2 hours. This young lady came and sat next to me, and I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "I'm here to apply for emergency food stamps." And I said, "I don't know what those are." So she walked me through the process, and about 10 minutes into it, Patty walks by, she goes, "What are you doing?" "Emergency food stamps." I don't think so. And in the vernacular of quality control, I was an error waiting to happen, all right? I'm going, "How much you supposed to get? $1,000? Good for me," you know? And so then they took me around, they introduced me to everybody in the office, which is what they always do. And I worked in the office with 11 ladies and one guy. And we met, and I met John, and I met Floss, and I met all these people, and we stopped and chat. And most of them called me New Boy, because the men didn't last very long, and they didn't want to get attached to me until I made it through probation. And we come to this one cubicle, and it's full of bags of trash and magazines, it's a rat's nest, and there's a little lady sitting at it smoking a cigarette. And I remember we're walking up, and I see her, and I said, "Patty, can you smoke at your desk?" And she goes, "No." And then she goes, just keep moving, just keep moving. This lady was getting ready to retire very soon. She's burned out, angry. She should have retired a long time before she was there. Her name was Tish, and she was mean. And when she talked, her cigarette would go up and down in her mouth. And I stayed away from her. And so what they did was they put me into cubicles with every one of the caseworkers, and I learned to interview with everybody. And I found that this caseworker could do an interview scheduled for 30 minutes in 29 and a half minutes. That's how good they were. And this one could do a 30-minute interview in 5 minutes just by going, you don't have any changes, do you? Done. Dismount. Okay? This one had clients stacked up out in the waiting room about 4 deep in a holding pattern, inciting a riot out there because they've been sitting out there so long. And this person asked totally different questions than anybody else. But nobody told me what was good and what was bad. Nobody told me what were good habits and bad habits. I just kind of picked and chose whatever I liked. I put together a patchwork quilt of my interviewing style. And what I found later was that it normally doesn't change. But what we have to do is that as I began to interview more and more, I'm almost off probation. Tish files a complaint. I had an interview with her. So Patty calls me in her office for the first of what's going to be a series of closed-door meetings over my career. And she says, just go and interview with her and it'll be over soon. And I remember I'm in the interview, and Tish is sitting here already, and the client's sitting across, and the man looks ashen. He is scared. And normally I would come in, introduce myself to the client, applicant, participant, customer, person, whatever the term was, and then sit down. And I got right about here, and Tish said, new boy, sit down, shut up, don't say anything. Okay? And so Tish takes the application. This is her initial opening line to establish rapport. Now, her voice, I want you to picture, is like a dolphin. That sound that goes right to your brain bone. This is her first question. It says here, you don't have any income. Isn't it true you work at Strike Potato Farm? And before he can answer, she goes, liar! This is a lie. You're a liar. Now this was a style I had not encountered. And I'm thinking to myself, can we call people a lie? I mean, nobody else does this. And without hesitating, Tish moves on. It says here, you don't have any resources. Isn't it true? Isn't it true you have a brand new truck? This is a liar. You're a liar. And then she did this. It says here, your son's in the home. Isn't it true he's in prison right now? Liar! These are lies. She rips the application in half. And out of nowhere, a supervisor comes, takes her away, tells her to go home for the day, takes the client back, finishes the interview. Nobody says a word to New Boy. You know? I had a couple caseworkers walk by and they said, you know, Tim, what happened was wrong. But I've always wanted to do that just one time. Now, here's what I would discover, is that in my career, there's a bell curve of caseworkers. This is New Boy. New Boy believes everything he's told. If somebody said, what happened to your husband? He was hit by a meteor. Well, that's the third time for you. I write it down. You know what I mean? What are the odds? Tish, everybody's a liar. Doesn't matter. Liar, liar, liar. She ruled by intimidation. Everybody in this room is somewhere in this bell curve. And based on how your attitude is, how you've been treated and talked to, your workload and pressure, it depends on whether you go this way or this way. This is when you make the extra step for somebody and it turns out that they drive away with a Cadillac with lobster in the trunk. How many times you hear that story? Every time I work food stamps, what do you do? Food stamp program. I saw this guy. He bought lobster with food stamps. He put him in the trunk of his Cadillac and he drove off. And I'd say, I know, I'm going to fly out and arrest him later today. We know that. But then I became an investigator and found that investigators, who are investigators in here? Investigators ask questions differently too. You know, and my caseworker said, Tim, how come you can ask questions like this and we can't? I said, you can. If something doesn't make sense, you should not accept it. You know, just because a piece of paper has something written on it doesn't make it true. I had a guy one time that was homeless, and I needed verification, so he had a jogger write, this note that was all scribbly and stuff. Now, am I going to go, oh, good enough for me? That's paper. It's in writing. Well, done. Do my desktop. No. Then later, I became a Fed. I worked with USDA Food Nutrition Service. I oversaw the programs that I established eligibility for. And I asked questions even differently. And I found there's a lot of different ways to do this. But what we have to do is understand, don't get locked into any patterns of behavior. And if you put all this together, here's what you do. Look at the motives. Look at all these things. And then if you're not communicating, change how you're asking the questions to fit one of these patterns. If they're not understanding the words, how many clients don't understand net and gross income? If they're not understanding it, it doesn't matter how long. Net or gross? Net, or gross. It doesn't. Here I wrote down a couple things that I got in the survey that were things you hear a lot and about how you respond. We put all this together. Why do I have to keep coming in here over and over? My situation never changes. Normally you have to say what? Just the way it is, pal. Or that's the rules, right? This is what we have, or what? It's a procedure. Oh, we have a procedure. It's policy. Okay? What if you were to say this instead? When somebody says, why do I have to keep coming in here over and over? My situation never changes. How about this for an answer? Your situation may not change, but the programs change all the time. And we need to make sure that you receive the maximum benefit allowance. Is that good? That takes in the words, the motivation, the goals and objectives, how you say it. It's the truth, right? If somebody's eligible, they should get benefits. They should get all the benefits they're eligible for. And you have their attention. Here's another one. I don't know who the absent parent is. A lot of times, you want to go, pay attention, That was probably the second letter of apology I had to write. But the thing is that when somebody says that, we don't respond like that. What we want to do is, you want to have something that addresses the motives of each group, them and you, the words you say, and they have an empathy. That child is important, unless they're on drugs, or they should be on drugs. I mean, it's not an absolute. When they say, I don't want to identify the absent parent, the biological father, you don't go, well, yeah, you gotta. Here's an answer, using what we're going to talk about. Did you know, I know you're hesitant to tell me, but did you know if you don't identify the biological father now, that child may be denied Social Security benefits or veterans benefits in the event that that parent passes away that they may really need at a later date? Educational benefits, health benefits. You may not have known that, but I think it's important we identify who that is now. And then it becomes a choice. You with me on this? Okay. Here, interviewing with style. It's not about working harder. It's just about adapting. Because we have such a diverse group of people we have to interview. Some are resistant. Some of them come in and tell you things you don't want to hear. Right? I don't ever ask anybody how they're feeling. They open up, I got this scar, But what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to adapt to fit all of the different communication styles that are out there, and it's really not that tough to be able to do it. First one up there is the words we say. You may have understood what you think you heard, but maybe what you heard isn't really what I meant. I had a guy come in and he told me that I said, what happened to your last job? I got laid off. Now, if I stop right there, I'm in trouble. Because I said, well, what do you mean you got laid off? I forgot to go to work for 2 weeks, and so they laid me off. I don't think he got laid off, do you? I think he quit or got fired. And by the way, how do you forget to go to work for 2 weeks? Can you imagine you're sitting at home today, and you're going, supposed to be doing something. Something Adams County. I know. You learn to interview at college, OJT, different things. But here's more important. The words we say, the words are difficult for some people to understand. What's your household income? Assets, shelter, all these things. Especially if they're not from this country where they have other patterns of communication. Our educational levels are very different too. Our ability to grasp English is a tough language. It is. We're going to go over it even more. But it's a tough language. And how well we use it also determines how well they respond. And our diversity, which is our strength, but it's a communication nightmare. You know, I mean, if I say to you, come here fast, does it mean come here right away or come here but don't eat for a while? Understand the words that the applicants say. Gross or net income. I've explained that over and over. I had a person tell me that I asked why they hadn't declared this income, and she responded, it wasn't income, it was outgo. And I said, what is that? She said, well, the money's deposited in my account and it goes to child support. So I never see it. It's not income, it's outgo. Good point. Again, laid off or quit. You know, it's all the terminology. You know, it's the same thing. I asked how long this lady Benson, she saw her husband. She said on Mother's Day. And I said, well, clear back in May? And she goes, no, at the beginning of each month when I get my check, that's Mother's Day. And that's when he comes over to visit. It's a different terminology. English is tough. Now listen to this. The bandage was wound too tight over the wound. Same spelling. If I read it, the bandage was wound too tight over the wound, doesn't quite make it, does it? He would lead if he could get the lead out. He would lead if he could get the lead out. A farm can produce produce. The farmer was outstanding in his field. Do you think he's good at what he does, or do you go to the window to see if he's out there? The dump was so full it had to refuse the refuse. This is tough stuff, folks. They were ruthless. People were ruthless. Does it mean they're mean? Or there's no one at this table named Ruth? Read that last one. Can you read that last one out loud? Is it opportunity is nowhere? Or opportunity is now here? Or if you're from Montana like me, you see opportunity, I snow here? It's all a matter of perception. Miscommunication happens. These are actual things that people wrote in response to questions. Doctors, patient referred to hospital for repair of hernia by a social service worker. That's got to be a 2-hour interview at least. Car accidents. It wrote this down. The pedestrian had no idea which direction to go, so I ran over him. Imagine a guy's going across the road and he forgets his wallet. Oh, I forgot my wallet. Oh, I got my wallet. Where are my keys? Boom, dead. Church bulletins. The ladies of the church have cast off clothing of every kind, and they may be seen in the basement on Friday afternoon. Woohoo! I'm there. You know, so realize the miscommunication is so real. Doctors, anybody can do it. And I'm sure they didn't include that in the church bulletin to read the way it did. Words have power. It's not your personal decision. Just keep that in mind. Your own frame of mind here is critically important. You know, when I've had to deny people, there are times it's tough because there are needy people that aren't eligible, and there are eligible people that aren't needy. And I had to make choices in my career that will haunt me for a long time. I had 30 cases that I was charged in fraud against. We were sending them in to make the cut so they wouldn't get their benefits anymore. All had been proven. All refused to come in for interview. Their case is going to be closed. Now this means they're not getting Christmas food stamps. Every household had children in it. My decision meant those households don't get food stamps that month. Now, I was correct in every one of them, and I did the right thing. But I was thinking if I held them one more day, they wouldn't make the list. They'd get their benefits one more month, and what would it hurt? So what did I do? Turned them in. You know why? Because I knew what I was getting into when I became an investigator. And I had to make decisions that were against my personal beliefs, but I had to make a professional decision and be able to deal with it. Based on current eligibility policies, it's not, I'm denying your case. I'd be aware of those language. Best language, the best wording based on how the person will best understand and respond. Not do you have, what's your household comp, but who lives with you and who's staying there? You know, what do those folks call the money? Is it money? It's cash. It's a check. You know, it's those sort of things. Open and closed questions, again, you hear about them all the time, but you got to have a pattern of asking them. If somebody's too talkative, closed question, and then open question. You control that interview. It's not just that I use open and I use closed. Yes or no entries on the computer are determined by you based on your open questions. Most computer systems have yes or no questions contained in them, not open questions. It's up to you to interpret that and then ask the question in an open format to determine eligibility. What we have to learn to do is that we have to function, not filling in squares, but be able to function to gather the information and not just be filling in squares and square holes. Okay, you're just filling in the blanks, or are you doing an interview? And these are real people, folks, in real need. You have an awesome responsibility, a lot of power. Difficult people, interviewing with style, here's some suggestions. Every time I come in here, it's a pain. I appreciate you had a difficult time with this previously, but I can't change that. I can apologize. Does it hurt you to apologize? This was when I was doing research for the book. People would say, nobody will apologize. So I'm sorry. I'd say, I'm sorry what happened to you before. I am sorry. But now, we need to focus in on this to make sure that you receive what? Maximum benefit allowance. If I were a woman, I could get this assistance. The answer is, how would you being a man or woman mean I could treat you differently? And quite frankly, that's a pretty severe action to take just to get food stamps, to have a sex change, just in my opinion. Clients who keep referring back to past problems they've had with you or some other agency, the answer is, I'm just wondering, how does this past problem apply to our interview today? And the chances are possibly what? It doesn't. It doesn't. I can only apologize about that stuff. Artfully vague. Ghostwriter and the lie is the power of the pause and the power of silence. If you ask a question, then you need to let them answer. And if they don't answer, don't fill in the blanks. Do you have any income? They don't answer. So you don't have any income? What's they going to do? Same thing. No, I don't. But if I ask you a question, I'm going to wait for an answer. And if you don't answer, I'm going to say, this information is critical. And if I can't get it, then if you choose not to give it to me, then I'm going to have to deny your application. Or it may mean that you don't receive the maximum benefit allowance. Most people, we'll talk about silence, most people are not comfortable with very much silence. Deletions, distortions, and generalizations. Most of the people I investigated when I was a fraud investigator were not profiting from the system like you'd think they're driving around a Cadillac, buying all this stuff and having money everywhere. Most of them were normal people who just wanted a check or two and then hated to let it go. A lot of them had alcohol and drug problems. I really never met anybody that was they were just ripping the system off. Although as a Fed, I did see with trafficking cases where people were making significant amounts of money. But the bottom line with this is that there are criminals in the system, right? There are. You know, how we look at things, I think most people, they would distort things or generalize. I would take, as an investigator, I get a loan application, their last loan application at a bank to buy a car, and compare that with their application for assistance. And I found that both were exaggerated. Somewhere in the middle was the answer. Pacing and leading works like this. You can even do breathing. You know, I've watched as somebody comes in and they're breathing real heavy. Jay Arthur, the guy we're going to talk about that I got a lot of the neurolinguistic procedures from, I've watched him as somebody's really nervous or breathing heavy, match their breathing style and slow them down as they watch him breathe. Does it work on everybody? No. If the person's on methamphetamine, if they're on drugs or should be on drugs, you can do that all day long. Not going to affect them. Pacing and leading. Columbo approach, very painless. Help me understand. Help. I don't understand. I mean, I'm working here, but I don't see how you're paying rent when you're not having any income. Well, it's not easy. Well, that's true. I'd say it's impossible. You know, you wouldn't say that. You would say there has to be an answer here, and I don't have it yet. And I can't process your case without it. Right? Challenge them. You know, one of the things that I loved about Columbo was he didn't call people a liar. By the way, don't. Okay? We don't call them liars. But he would do this. He'd go, well, that makes sense, you know, and then it'd be, I'm just not clear. And they start talking. Do you know how hard it is to make up a totally fabricated story and hold it together over the length of an interview, especially numbers and statistics? Garrison Keillor is Lake Wobegon. He invented all these characters, knows how they interact. None of them exist. It's hard. It's hard. There are people good at it. Combinations of truth and untruth, ran into that a lot, where this would be true, 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 and then something fuzzified. Internal and external answers. Do you have children? Yeah. Shouldn't have to think about that answer, ladies, right? Right? But what if she were to pause and go and think about it? It would mean, how many people did I claim? Are they all with me? Right? This is the tells that we look at. Internal and external. Questions? I got told once I didn't pause long enough for questions. That'll never happen again. Force questions are like this. Are you paid weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, per job? Not are you working? When are you paid? When do you actually receive the money? Again, reality-based questions. Do you have income? No. It's how much did you earn? How long could you go until you would be forced to let your house go, move out, be on the street? How long do you think it takes? Most Americans are 2 to 3 paychecks away from being homeless themselves. We don't have the big cash reserves up. Right? So what we want to do is do reality-based questions. Is your spouse employed? No. It's how much does your spouse earn? Do you have a bank account? Instead, it's where you bank. I've seen applications when I was a Fed that people would say they didn't have a bank account and then later put on there that their Social Security check was direct deposited. I'm thinking that's a problem, aren't you? Used to be, if you didn't earn any money, how'd you pay the rent? The suggestion would be, I'm just wondering how you got the money to pay the rent. And let me give this caveat too. I don't want you to think that the answers or the things we say in here are necessarily caustic, and they may not apply to every single interview. But when people come in that are sometimes very confrontative, what we want to do is pick and choose our level of response. Do you agree? It's not about being sarcastic or anything like that, but when somebody says, you don't understand, you know what, I'd say, I may not understand because I can't get the information I need to understand your situation. You may have been on the other side of the desk. I don't want to put my children in daycare. Well, you know what, I would have liked to stay at home and raise my children too, but I'm here to provide the best possible life I can for them. Is that okay to say that? That's what we do. You don't go, oh, my kids, they went to daycare the second they were old enough. I only get them when they make me take them away. Statement question. Tell me step by step how you pay your bills. Walk me through it. Again, statement questions. Tell me about your construction business. Clarify. This is what I'm hearing. Is this what you're saying? I'm confused. It's okay to admit it. I'm confused. Please repeat what you said about this or that. Question people till they're empty. If I just ask you where you work and you say you work for Adams County, potentially we have a problem because you may have 2 or 3 jobs and your husband may have 2 or 3 jobs. And people do whatever they need to do to get by. And sometimes they're seasonal. You work at the fair and you have a booth. Or maybe you sublet a motor route to another person and get a cash back payment. What else? What else? Not hostile, but what else? This is tone of voice. Come on, stop holding back. That's not what I mean. According to USA Today, at least a quarter of adults have more than one job or source of income. That's a pretty big statistic, isn't it? And we're looking at seasonal employment, lawn and gardening, hauling, carpentry. It's fascinating to me, once I was an investigator, to see how much work people were doing, unskilled labor, for cash, or redeeming cans and bottles. Always follow the money. It all goes back to the money. That's the biggest thing here, is that if you can verify the income that's coming in, you're going to do good. I got asked in the last class, if I were to summarize a couple things that I'd recommend based on, and I do this all over the United States, it would be that number one, that you stay in the now. That when somebody's talking to you, you're not somewhere else. Because people have information in the files that were reported and documented that you just didn't hear. The second thing would be you document everything. You can get out of an error by documenting it. By documenting what was said. Not just that they said it, but then you clarified it again. Separate household for food stamps. We'll talk about that if we have more time. You can actually get out of errors by documenting. But all this goes back to the money. You facilitate the communication. They're not resources, they're cars, house, money. That's not a resource, but it could be. All right, silence. Tell me about the last time you received any money. I'm going to ask you a question. I don't want anybody here to answer. Don't say anything, just let me do this. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you 5 seconds and 10 seconds of silence and how long it is. Ready? I'm going to say, tell me about your construction business. Don't say anything. After 5 seconds, raise right hand, 10 seconds left. You ready? Tell me about your construction business. Is that a lifetime? Most people can't go longer than 3 seconds without filling in the blank somehow. And the thing is, I tell people, are you confused? Do you understand the question? Because without this information, I can't process your application. If you choose not to do this, then you are actually choosing to have the application denied. This isn't something I'm choosing to do. You understand? And even if you pause, that you want to get somebody's attention, you just pause and break the line of communication. Listening. Most average speed rate for people is 200 words a minute. Most of us can think at 4 times that speed. Some of you are reorganizing your closets while you're listening to folks. You've heard it over and over. You've talked to this person 100 times. You are not in the now. And active listening, distractions and stress are key factors. I was interviewing a lady for fraud and helped her do the statement because she had a broken arm. When she went to sign the statement, she leaned across the desk and rested her chest on my arm and said, maybe we can work this out. Now, do you move or do you? I just seized up. And Donna said she heard this noise. She came over, you leave him alone. The thing is, I don't remember what we said for the next 2 minutes. I was thinking, what was I supposed to do? I had a kid crawl underneath my desk. I'd broken my foot, and he bit my toe. I remember scooting back. You get a long distance on that plastic when you do that. There are all kinds of distractions out there. Passive listening. This is when you're not paying attention and you're not in the now. Active listening means that you give continual feedback during the interview. Is this what you're saying? Am I understanding you properly? You are paying attention. Y'all understand this? Okay. You with me? Any questions? No, Tim. All right. The next part of this is how we say the words. Information conveyed by words is the message. How we transmit the message is the meta message. I live in Denver, out by the airport. And when I first moved out there, all there was a Burger King. And when I got in late, I had to go, if I was hungry, that's the only place to go. And I got to know a lot of the kids out there. And I pull through and I pull up and go, yes, I like a hamburger. And they go, Tim, and I've been doing this for a long time. And I pull up and it's about 11 o'clock at night and I pull up, yes, I like a hamburger. I'm sorry, sir, I can't understand you. Just because my hand is over my mouth. Well, can you take your hand away from your mouth? I do. And so we do this all the way up, and he gives me my order. Now, his words said, enjoy your meal and have a nice evening. And his eyes told me to go straight to hell. These are meta messages that we send out. Emerson said, who you are stands over you and thunders, so I cannot hear what you say to the contrary. If you're sounding judgmental, that's not a caring attitude, is it? And yet we can be very judgmental from time and not even know it. Separate household. If you really want to know this is for your food stamp people out there. Here's what I used to do. I would say, tell me about the situation with food at the house. Tell me just an average dinner meal. What are you doing? And they'd walk me through it. I would document the answer. And then I would say, do you both eat hamburger? Yeah. Well, let's walk me through one of those. How do you make hamburgers? Well, I have my hamburger. She has her hamburger. How do you cook them? Well, we throw them in a skillet, cook them up. I eat my hamburger, and they eat their hamburger. Prepared together. Right? Whose ketchup do you use? Well, we share that. The thing is, that it's purchased together. Now, don't make the noise. okay? Just a little safety tip. But then you educate them and you say separate household means this, and then document. Because if QC picks the case up and they say, are you a separate household? And they give a different answer because they've been coached. You've documented what they said, then you documented, you educated them, and then you documented what was said again. I don't know anything else you can do. How we say the words, your body language, the meta messages, theirs and ours. Now, quite frankly, there's too many variables. I'm a student of kinesiology, about body language and about how we communicate. But there are no absolutes. When I was told that if people didn't look you in the eye, they were what? Lying. Until I interviewed a Hmong Vietnamese, where I had to get my head down about to the ground before he looked me in the eye. He wasn't lying. It was a cultural difference, right? There's no absolutes, but certain things can be used, and it's more your body language rather than theirs. If I'm sitting here and I ask you about your income, and I'm doing this, you say you haven't gotten the income in 10 years, and I'm doing this, it means I'm buying into it, doesn't it? But if you say that, and then I do this, what did I do? I broke rapport, didn't I? I told them I didn't agree. And then if they change and I slide back out, this is exaggerated, but you know, then I'm going to resort back to another mode that facilitates communication. Meta messages, tone of voice and volume. You know, I listened as this lady was doing an interview, and every one of her, everything she said ended on an upswing, like it was a question. Nice day today? You know, I mean, we got to be careful of that. This is some of the choices you need to reach in your business. You have to know the facts, examine the reality of your work, find things about your business that may be a break deal, about something that you will never be able to deal with. You know, if you mow lawns for a living and you're allergic to grass clippings, it's a problem. If your child wants to become a surgeon and they faint at the sight of blood, it's a problem. And then I had a caseworker tell me it was the worst job they ever had. You know, she just stood up. And I said, yes. And she goes, I hate my job. I hate the people I work with. I hate the rules. I hate my right to work. I hate my boss. I hate my boss's boss. I hate my computer. And I said, whoa, is there a question here for me? And she said, should I quit my job? And I could feel the answer being beamed to me by her coworkers. For the love of God, Tim, tell her yes. You know, the thing is, if you're that miserable, you shouldn't be doing this. One of the interviews I sat in on, a young lady sitting there, and it was one of the jobs people, and the person they were interviewing said, what do you think about, you know, what do you want to do? What would be a good job? And the person said, well, I kind of like to do what you do. And the jobs person goes, welcome to the hell that's my life, you know. Now here's the fact. People are eligible or ineligible, period. End of discussion. And it's not your personal decision. And overcoming stress and negative attitudes is a never-ending process. It's just not like you do it for a day and stop for a month. You've got to be aware of this stuff. You've got to be there for each other. You've got to give yourself credit. Retrospective budgeting for food stamps. Last month's income figures the next month's benefits unless it terminates in a prospective month. That makes my head hurt when you think about it. Examine the reality of work. This is true or false. You're never going to be paid what you should. True or false? You could give away millions of benefits. You are never going to make, I mean, if this is a break deal, move on. Rules and policies may be confusing and may not make sense. How come the programs can't all have the same resource limits? Why is that so difficult? You're never going to have enough staff. Supervisors. Who's the supervisor? You're never going to be calling on the supervisor. Can you take some of my people? I just have too many people. I mean, you must not have too many people. Offices are never going to have enough resources. We got told once we need to write more on our sticky notes. You know, you can't make this stuff up. People are going to view the program differently. Okay, you passed the resource test, the income test, and the household composition test, but now you must say toy boat 3 times real fast. That may be what their perception is. All right, here's another reality of the work. You got to triage people. Not everybody is the same. True or false? This is my 20-20-60 rule. 20% of the people are honest. They're just honest. I mean, this is the lady that comes in and tells you about the certificate of deposit, their dead Aunt Edna's name in a safety deposit box in New York under another name you'd never find in a million years. And you want to, you want to do that. And you say, what's that money for? Maybe if they were in the Depression, they'd say it's for a rainy day. And you got to tell them what? It's poor. It's poor. 20% are totally dishonest. These are criminals. This is the guy that came in and applied for 2 children that were deceased and just kept receiving benefits for them. That guy's a criminal. When I caught him, he just said, okay, I'm out of here. If I'm not under arrest, I'm out of here. I'll just go to another county and apply under a different name. You know, and all I could say was, yeah, well, and nothing will happen to you. You know, 60% of us are in the middle. If I'm in a hurry, I will speed in my car to get to the airport, to get to a plane on time. And I won't get on that plane and go, I'm a speeder. I'm a speeder. No. Now, the 60%, those are the ones you have the biggest impact on. That's who you concentrate the most on. The 20% that are dishonest, document. And the 20% that are totally honest, they're going to tell you their penny collection in the closet that's been there for 5 years. Dwell on success. There are people that succeed. Tabitha is a young lady that I listened to at a conference, a longtime applicant who eventually had somebody take her under their wing, got her a GED, she went to community college, she got a degree, went to work for low-income energy assistance, and was applying for supervisor jobs. She was up speaking, talking about how you can be successful. And she came back, she said, Tim, you look pretty funny. You didn't look like you were paying attention. And I said, you know what, I was trying to remember the last time I met a Tabitha. You know, I met a lot of people. I never met a Tabitha, and they're out there. We need to tell people, put wall of success up, pictures of people, you know, I mean, I don't say take your picture, but in the newspaper, public information, a wall of success. Elite cadre. This is a very small club of people that can do this and understand it. I stood out in the hallway and listened to 2 of you talking about Medicaid policy, and I lost you. I mean, I wanted to go, now, this is English. You know, I mean, it's so complicated. And here's another one. People are going to lie to you. How many of you have children? If your children were hungry and hadn't had any food for 2 days, would you go in and falsify a food stamp application to get a food? Maybe. Desperate people do desperate things in desperate situations. And if you don't know any other way to do it, I guarantee you, you're going to do what you can to get your babies fed. And I hear this a lot. People are going to lie to you. You work in a money store. People fill out paper, give it to you, and then you give them money. Sweet. Lady told me, I said, why do you keep getting food stamp overpayments? She said that they're zero interest loans. They're zero interest. Are they? They're zero interest loans. Some states do charge interest on it. Very few collect, especially if it's large. If you go into a Circle K in here and steal $20 worth of food, you're going to jail. You steal $1,000 from the food stamp program, you pay it back at $10 a month, right? And so what I'm saying to you is, this is how this person was surviving. It's not to me it's not. It's an explanation about how we view things separately. Punishment doesn't fit the crime. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. New scams. I just heard about this one. Title 19 Medicaid card possessed by an authorized recipient rents the card to an unauthorized person for temporary use for a cash payment. Creative, isn't it? Creative. Stretching the truth. More than half the companies surveyed in 1998 found that a huge number of job candidates falsified information about their previous employment. Why'd they do it?
Money.
To get the job. To get the job. You know, we will take that extra step, that 60%. If that's real important to you, you may stretch a little bit on your home loan about the resources available to you. I want that house. This is my flow chart. Tell me what you think here. This is what I want you to think about every day. Every day, wake up or what? Not. This is what happens. You either get to wake up or you're dead. Then you've got go to work or what? Or not. You are not court ordered to be here, right? This is a choice, ladies and gentlemen. You know, when somebody says, I can't quit my job, guess what? Yes, you can. You know, we have that right here. In Bahrain, one of my speaker friends told me, you know, I can mess with this for an hour, can I? Yeah, I need my dressing. That's all right. Little wardrobe malfunction. Go to work or what? Not. You know, if you go to work, is good and bad going to happen? Yes. If you don't go to work, is good and bad going to happen? Yes. Which one pays money? Go to work. Then you got your next one, actually work or what? No. There are people that look busy that aren't doing nothing. I call them employee tourists. They're just passing through. They'll tell you that. I'm just passing through. They may do it for 30 years of their life. You know, you work with people, you can spend 30 years of your life with people you didn't choose to associate with. 30 years. You know, if I'm sitting next to you in my little cubicle that's soundproof, we're about this close together, and every few minutes I make this noise. That could get irritating, couldn't it? And you could hear it for 30 more years. You come home, how's your day? You know? Be the best you can be or what? Not. Avoid the stress or what? Not. Then you have deal with stressors or not. Have fun or what? Not. This is a great deal. You know, any of these, just read them up here, is that if these things push you to the edge, then a break deal may be in a place and you may need to work someplace else. You're going to have angry people, aren't you?
Yeah.
They're not always happy. You're not eligible. Woohoo! You know? Good for you. I'll see you in a year. Yeah, whenever I'm having a bad day, I think of this young man right here. He is holding a target that people are shooting at. He's dreaming of working indoors. Now, when that man in the middle has to go to the bathroom, just look how productivity will suffer. These people all dream of having their own cubicle. There is no perfect job. This guy's dreaming about standing out in the field holding up a sign that people shoot at. See the world differently. Be in the now for every interview. How many people drove by that sign and never saw it? How many? Here's some of the things to overcoming interviewing barriers. Christine, we got about, 10 minutes till we take a break? About 10, 15 minutes? Actively start and end each day. This is how we break the barriers. Actively start and end each day with an activity. You know, I don't know if you've seen sniglets. Sniglets are words for things that should exist that don't. They're all the things that you see every day you don't pay attention. They're words like, describes the action. You ever see a string on the floor and suddenly you're vacuuming? Doesn't pick it up. Then don't you bend down, pick it up, give it another chance. It's called car perpetuation. Every day we read the sniglet for the day and started our day with laughter. And at the end of the day, a lot of you take all of the problems that happened during the day, you put them on like a little wagon and you carry them home. See you tomorrow! And your husband or wife says, how was your day? And you do this. Here's my day. Deal with that day. And they'll say, well, what happened? Oh, I can't talk about that. It's confidential. Then you drag it back. Back to work now. You don't do anything else. At the end of the day, do this. Find a chair, sit down. 5 o'clock, done for the day. Do your dismount. Really stuck that day. Then turn around the chair and do this. New stay. I'd establish whining-free zones where you're safe to be able to go without people whining. You know, whine, W-H-I-N-E, with the line through. Be a clinician, not a gossiper. You know, I listened, my parents had some health issues this last year. Listen as these two nurses talked about this terminal patient, very clinically. They didn't judge them. You know, it's not like they said, well, we told that guy to stop smoking. I'm not helping him. I mean, he's a goner. I warned him 30 years ago. He's dead, you know. Do your dismount. Set mental baselines. Mental baselines is take the worst thing that happened to you. It becomes your baseline. And you compare all negative customer encounters to that afterwards. I'm standing in the store at King Soopers. Guy in front of me's got a whole load of fabric softener. He's angry because they've run out of, it was a lost leader and it was real cheap. He worked at this camp or something and he wanted fabric softener and he's yelling at the clerk. He's about 20. I want the fabric softener. I don't want a rain check. I want the fabric softener. And she said, well, all I can give you is a rain check. We don't have any. And the lady behind me, what's the matter? Oh, they're out of fabric softener, you know. And he pushes the cart out of the way, calls her name, and walks out the door. She's about ready to start crying. Now, I'm not a good shopper. I need to get in and get out of there. And so she's getting ready to turn her light off. And I walk up, excuse me, can I ask you a question? And she goes, I'm going to need a minute. She's almost in tears. Excuse me, can I ask you a question? She said, I'm going to need a minute. I said, excuse me, can I ask you a question? She goes, I'm going to need a minute. I said, excuse me. She goes, what? What? I said, is that the worst customer you've ever had? And she said, yes, it is. I said, from now on, you'll compare all negative encounters to fabric softener man. He is your baseline. I said, anybody else come close? And she goes, well, yogurt woman was mean to me once. Hamburger guy, he yelled at me too, you know. People are going to respond differently. Set mental baselines. Refresh and renew in between negative encounters. You know, I'm a strong believer in having fun stuff around in the workplace. This is a cube crab. Go across the top of the cubicle with it. Are we being a little crabby today? There you go. You know, as you find the things that stress you, you can also find things that help you deal with it. Are you going to have changes to policy? Yes.
Always.
You can get mental floss. You take the old policy and everybody just flosses out. Old policy out. Old policy out. You know, somebody goes, you go in the meeting, I hope we have some policy changes today. It's a change of attitude. Change of attitude. I had a fraud investigator tell me he was mad. I said, what caused you stress? He says, this lady I interviewed yesterday, she lied to me. And I said, duh, it's fraud. I mean, if you're a fraud investigator, are people going to lie to you? I said, buddy, this is job security. It'd be like you food stamp people. People keep coming in to apply for food stamps. You know, And I said, well, let me help you. I said, well, we arrest people. Nobody goes to jail. I said, let me help you with that. I had these glasses made. I took 2 forks, and I welded them together. And I said, if you turn your head sideways and look at them like this, you can see what they look like behind bars. Just one time. These are the things. Second last one up there is game face. When you go out to do an interview, just think of it like your game face. I used to look over Donna, showtime, and I'd head out there. Nothing else mattered. When I got divorced, and I know there's 2 sides of every story and I'm over it, I still had to do my seminars. And I couldn't get up in front of the group and go, I hate women today. It's not a good rapport builder, okay? And I would go in the bathroom and talk to myself, and I'd say, this is going to be the best one yet. And I said it until I believed it. And I stood in there, and I didn't say, you're handsome and you're... No, I didn't. It wasn't like that. I just said, this is going to be the best one yet. Until I let go of everything. Because those people there, they care about whether you're getting divorced or not, you know, about maybe what makes you sad, but we have a job to do, right? Home stays at home, work stays at work. And I'd stand there and talk to myself until I finally believed it. I did it today. I do it every single program. It works better when you use your own restroom. You start standing in public restroom. This is going to be the best one yet, you know. People go shooting right out the door. You know, and I'd recommend, too, that you put a mirror on your desk. Know what you look like when you're talking on the phone or when you're talking to people. It can be scary. You think you're smiling. You know, you may be really not giving the best little smile or whatever to those people, and it's the meta messages. Again, end your day with a smile and walk away. Okay? Avoid the toxic people, the psychic vampires. They're out there. They're out there. Some of you work with some of them. Some of you are them. I mean, they're everywhere. We avoid them when we can. And I had a lady that came out and she kept telling me that she was so angry about all the people that came in and lied to us, and she said, call them slime creature. And I just told her I don't want to hear it anymore. You know, these are people that I know. These could be family members. We should treat those people the way we would want our mama to be treated if she has to come in and apply. Isn't that right? That's how we think about treating people. You know, because these are the people in our community. Feelings follow thoughts, not the other way around. Feelings follow thoughts. If you tell yourself, I'm angry, I can't do this, I'm upset, your brain believes it. Except those of you that are schizophrenic. I mean, if you go, I'm angry, no you're not, yes you are. You know what I mean? That's a little different. But it is easy to become infected. Very easy. And I found that I tried to not hang with the people that were going to be really upsetting all the time. This bummer woohoo works. When I travel and I know I'm at Chicago O'Hare, I know there's going to be a plane delay. I'm not going to sit there and go, what were they thinking? Plane delay, you know, it's a bummer. And then I insulate myself as best I can. And when I can talk them into upgrading me for free, woohoo! I'll tell them, can you upgrade me for free? Why should I do that? I like first class. I'm going to hold my breath till you upgrade me. Have pride in what you're doing. And professional attitude, just like a doctor. You know, this is not something to take personally. And the last part of this section is to laugh at yourself. And as C.W. Metcalf says, laugh not with ridicule, but with objectivity and acceptance of self. You are going to do stupid stuff. First time I went out to call in my very first applicant, just off probation, very nervous. We have a large Native American population, and I have Native American heritage, and I want to make sure I say the names right. There are a lot of names like Walks Like a Deer and Runs at Night, you know, or people from other countries, you want to go Mrs. Bremden, Hemmenden, you know, and it was very important to me to do it right. And I remember I walked out, and there's about this number of people in the waiting room. Papers only. Papers only. Papers only. And I said it about 5 times till the secretary came around, whispered to me, and she goes, Tim, it's not a face-to-face app. It's a papers-only app. This is just... Good to know. Good to know. All right, so what we've talked about up to this time, the words we say are of critical importance, and we can pick and choose which one we use. And how we say them, we need to be aware of, or we'll make mistakes. All right, put them here on your desk and see what meta messages you're sending to the applicant during the interview. Next section is modify your style of communication. The communication between you and your subject is facilitated by you making very small but significant adjustments in what you say, how you say it, and your choice of words. If that person is looking at you like they don't understand, you just don't go, I said, tell me about your construction. You know, no, that's not what we do. Or are you stupid? You know, I mean, the thing is, our tone of voice can say that even if the words do not. Yeah. And I was asked at the break, what if you really want to, they said, what if you really want to call somebody a liar? Well, don't do it, okay? But you can write it on the roof of your mouth with your tongue. That's... Modify your style. Again, men and women, different communication factors. Age is a factor. You know, a lot of times when people come in that are older, they want to talk to you. And there's only so much that we can do. And I've had to tell people, you know, I'd love to chat with you about this, but we need to make sure that you get the maximum benefit allowance. And if there's time later, we can talk. But I'm under a real tight time delay, and this is important to you and to me. Hearing that people communicate differently. Some of you are visual, some of you are auditory. You know, everybody do this. Make a circle with your thumb and finger, just like this. You don't have to touch anybody. Now do this. Do what I tell you to do, okay? Put it on your chin. 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 All right, hands down. Some of you are, it's on my chin. Now, that's a really old speaker trick, and I hate doing it, but it teaches so well the fact that you auditory people did what? Put it on your chin. You visual people did what? Put it on your cheek. And the more I said put it on your chin, the harder you tried to push it through your head. And the investigators are all like this. I'm not doing nothing until I watch something. We're all very different. But if you can, in fact, do something that adapts, you know, if you can give somebody a tangible reinforcement, it helps. I remember I had somebody say, Tim, you got a way to explain overpayments? And I thought this would be the easiest one. This is money. We gave it to you, you got too much, and now we want it back. Now, would you really use this? No. But I got in trouble. I was throwing it under Donna's cubicle, you know, and during a paperwork day when nobody else was around, and Handy come down, and Handy could have, you know. And finally, I look up, and Donna is standing there, and she goes, I have somebody with me, you know. So that wasn't almost an hour in Patty's office that time. Now, here's how it works. You grab it like this, you hold down the button. When you release the button, it shoots back in your hand. If the dollar bill comes off, don't replace it with anything larger than a 1, because people's speed increase exponentially based on the denomination of it. So anyway, we want to adapt our style. That's the big thing. And people from different countries communicate differently, right? We have such a diverse population now, we all communicate differently. I was interviewing a couple from Iraq or Iran, and she's in a chador, totally covered. And I would ask a question, and the lady would answer, and then the man would parrot the information to me. I'm a good interviewer, so I switched my line of questioning to the lady. And I said, well, ma'am, tell me more about your income. The guy came across the desk, put his nose almost on my nose, and he said, you will talk to me. And I said, okay. Now, you will go on the other side of the desk and sit down, because I don't know what that means where you're from, but here, that's a sign of aggression. We don't want that. And he explained to me that his religious belief was such that she couldn't talk to me directly or touch me. And so what happened was, their style of communication, I'm not, you know, I had a guy I was telling this story to in Texas that said, I'd have told that guy, hey, buddy, this is America. You'll talk like us. And I said, no. Can I change their whole cultural heritage or their religious beliefs to meet my style? No. And so I'd listen. And she would say something, he'd parrot it back, that's fine with me, but I'm not stupid. You know, she said, I get $10,000 a month, and he goes, nothing, you know. I had a guy that came in and had tinfoil on his head and brought in a tinfoil helmet for me to wear too. And I wore it. I mean, I don't care. And aliens could hear. And I remember my supervisor walking by my cubicle, you know, and it was, you know. I told him it didn't hurt anything. If I like to wear it around the house sometimes, that's my issue. People's reading skill levels are different. Nobody comes in and goes, hi, Tim Gard, functionally illiterate. You know, they don't do that. Diversity styles. You know, I mean, everybody has different ways of communicating, and I want you to concentrate more on your body language than theirs. They will send you messages, but we can misinterpret. And if you're getting mixed messages, then you use words to figure out the differences in what they may mean. You know, it'd be like, are you upset? Is there something wrong? You know, is there something that we need to talk about? You know, and well, you know, sometimes I had a lady sit there, I couldn't hardly get her to talk to me, and she had to get out that her husband had bought a new car, talked him into buying this car with no interest or whatever, and it was a brand new vehicle, and it was one of the vehicles would make him ineligible. She couldn't hear anything because she got that out. You know, and at the time it was like, ineligible. No, body language is a factor, but it is not an absolute. You with me on this? It's not an absolute. This right here, and I know it's hard for you to read, this is an actual copy of a handout that I got when I was first an investigator. Very first workshop I went to as an investigator. This was taught by a male version of Tish. And he believed that all of these things here were 100% accurate, and he tried to get us to buy into that. It scared the daylights out of me. Let me just read this for you here. Fraud prevention by proper this is the actual one. I'm not going to retype it because it's too good as it is. Fraud prevention by proper interviewing. Observation are the most important tool of the interviewer. Grammar would be second or even fifth. Watch for and learn from the following mannerisms. Now he says these are all 100% accurate. First one, raised eyebrows. Surprise. Now if you were to say, you're not eligible, say that.
You're not eligible.
What's that mean? Okay, say you're not eligible.
You're not eligible.
And I squint, it said clients doubt you. You know, breaking of eye contact, not truthful, too much eye contact, con or BS. Where is the fine line between those two? Introvert looks to the left slowly. Extrovert looks to the right slowly. That's actually accurate, but what does it mean? If I ask you a question and you look to the left, I don't go, introvert, introvert. Constant smile, liar. Tight lips, 90% liars. 90%, not 57.6, 90%. Blushing eyebrows away. I'm sure he meant brushing. But how much you have to blush before your eyebrows leave your face? Hands around mouth. Fears what he might say. Say to me, tell me about your construction business.
Tell me about your construction business.
Well, for about 10 years... Who does that? Hands on chin, thinking. I'll give him that one. Rubs chin or nose. He is confused. I don't know if it's a woman, if that's the same. Picks lint off cloths. Defensive behavior. Better be not picking lint off my cloths. Tapping fingers, tension. Clenching fists, angry. I'm going to give him that one too. You know, if somebody's standing in front of me and they're doing this, I'm thinking they're not happy with me. They're angry. Hands apert, palms up. Ladies and gentlemen, any investigators? Do we have any more investigators? I don't embarrass anybody. You know, I was an investigator for a number of years. I have caught people dead to rights. I have documented the case. I have never had anybody do this. Tim, you got me. Toes pointed towards door. What if it's behind you? I mean, picks feet up gently. Say, tell me about your construction business. Just say, you say the words. Tell me about your construction business. Well, what does that mean? According to him, it means you've lost him or her, start over. Legs spread, ready to confess and tell the truth. I'm not even going to go there. Cross legs, raised toes, liar, bounces foot feet, wants to run or leave, looks up frequently, searching for an answer. Interviewers should listen to the following comments made during the interview. I can't remember. That means they're a liar. I don't think so. A liar. The overusage of the word sir or ma'am. Con job. If they praise you or the department, they're a liar. If they're a slow walker, they're a liar. Medicate people. Raise your hands. Okay? Can you imagine this? Somebody's coming back with a walker, you know, and you turn around. You're a liar! Liar! There are no absolutes, right? This person believed that. If you judge body language as an absolute, then you run the risk of judging a lie the truth or a truth a lie, simply based on this. They're just part of the communication package, right? Here's some of the IWS techniques. We've already talked about this. Pacing and leading, changing the volume of your voice. As a professional speaker, if I have an audience that's starting to get a little unruly, I'll whisper, and I'll talk really low. And I get their attention immediately. The volume of your voice, the pitch, all of those things, you can use that to control the interview.